welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. I'm Logan.
I'm Luke.
And today, because of the recently released Mandalorian and Grogu, I think we're going to talk a little bit about why Star Wars as a whole has been kind of falling short here recently.
Mm.
And I think we can start off with our thoughts on the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, so we went with a group, and I feel like out of the group we went with, I don't know, I haven't talked to you that much about it, but I know I really disliked it. Like, I'm talking, I was sitting in the theater, and I kind of felt the way that, like, when you watch the sequel movies, it made you be like, oh, the prequels are pretty good. I was sitting there and I was like, I had a better time sitting in all three sequel movies than I am watching this movie. And at the end of it, I didn't go into this movie with high expectations at all. I wanted something about the level of Solo, like kind of fun action, kind of spirit of Star Wars based. And even Solo isn't perfect in that regard. Like, I relatively rank it low, but it still feels kind of, fun action-y Star Wars. That's what I expected, and it shot so far under that. I cannot believe. I was so bored. Yeah. I was so bored. It was so boring.
I didn't really care for it either. I think there were high moments and like scenes and stuff that were cool. Which, with a movie that has cool, like, characters that are as cool as that and a budget as high as that, that's to be expected. I mean, that's a given that it should have cool moments.
Yeah.
But that's, like, pretty much the only redeeming quality that it had. The story was a little disjointed. Like, it made sense, but it was just kind of all over the place. The stakes were not very high at all. It didn't feel super Star Warsy. It was kind of just felt generic, easy to follow action story.
Yeah.
And I know a big part of and this can lead us into one of the things that I believe is part of the reason why Star Wars has kind of been failing. But I know a big thing they're trying to do with Star Wars is create original stories set in the universe that are not directly correlated to the Skywalker saga. And that's fine. Like, I want them to do that. Star Wars is huge. The lore is vast.
Yep.
There's a million different storylines that you could follow. The issue is that you have a standalone movie of two characters that they had already milked to the point of making them bad in the show. And then you're making a whole movie about them. And the movie is just boring, disjointed, like...
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like...
This, in terms of what had happened throughout the entirety of Mando and Grogu's storyline, this was like one of the lowest stake things that we've seen. Like, this was like,
Yep.
a story that could have fit in half of a comic book.
Yeah.
Like,
and literally, okay, like, I wasn't even expecting it to change any of the lore or go super into the lore of anything at all. Like, I wanted just some gunfights, Mandalorians being what they are, some fist fights, and some bounty hunter crap going on, and it had all that, but it was just so, like, empty. And they introduce this new, like, Imperial bad guy, and it's just this fat guy. Like, it's just this fat guy who's like, oh no, the Mandalorian's after me, better get away. And then you have the Hutt twins who made, like, a 2-minute appearance from the Book of Boba Fett, and they're like, oh, everybody should be excited for this. It's like, I don't care about these two twins that I couldn't tell if they were, like, conjoined twins or not for a long time, but, like... Above all that, like, the Mandalorian and Grogu in this movie, the two title characters, nothing changed about their characters or their relationships at all. Like,
no.
They start and end in the same place. And another big problem I have in this movie is I feel like so many Star Wars movies even the sequels do a decent job at this, where when you're in like the underworld and criminal stuff, and even with rebellion officers and stuff, they will give them an edge to them, kind of like a we're not taking any crap. Or you go to like a skeevy little underground town and people are always trying to scam you and stuff, and it's like you cast Sigourney Weaver as this rebellion general, and she's just like, all right, Mando, do your best. Here's this new ship because you're doing such a great job, and like we're investing in you because you're the new hero of the New Republic and stuff. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, give her an edge, make her be bossy and mean. And then this really bugged me. I don't know what it was about this one scene, but the part where Mando goes to this planet looking for Rada. And he goes up to this food stand and he's just looking for information about Rada, and he like pings this dime down on the counter, and the alien he's talking to get information immediately is like, oh, for these prices I'll tell you anything you want.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? if you went into like the New Hope version of Mos Eisley Cantina and did that, you'd have people like scamming you and stuff and being like, I don't know, my memory's like make it cliche and stuff. That's fine. Like my memory's fuzzy, maybe I need a reminder and stuff. But don't just so that I don't spend a lot of time actually making this world feel alive and like Star Wars, and actually just kind of move along so we can figure out how to get to the end of the movie. Just be like, oh yeah, here's everything you need to know.
Yeah.
That's just it was so NPC in a video game, follow the plot to where the action is, as opposed to making the world actually feel alive and like dangerous like Star Wars should be.
Yeah. One of the things that bothered me storyline wise is I hate that a huge chunk of the movie was pretty much just Rada being like, I hate my family. I'm not my dad. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I get, like, that's your whole thing. But I'm like, you don't have to keep, like, we got it. You know, like, you don't have to reiterate it over and over and over. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Heard the same spiel with different words about 10 times.
The most redeeming thing I can say about the movie is I thought the whole part where Mando finally gets taken in by the Hutts for screwing them over and they have him fight the like snake thing was pretty cool. Embo, every time he was on screen, even though they still like, it seems like they could have filled in the blank with anybody at all and chose Embo. Every time he was on screen, he was cool. He just wasn't in it enough. Yeah. And then I appreciate that when Grogu realizes like the Mandalorian's in danger and stuff, they kind of made him seem more capable than I feel like he was throughout the show, because it's like he's always been strong with the Force and stuff. But it's kind of like, okay, at this point, he's been with Luke Skywalker, he's come back to the Mandalorians. When Mando is outmatched, he showed he doesn't have to rely on him. He came up with a plan, saved Mando, got him back to health, all that. Great. But it's like, I can count on 3 fingers the things that I appreciated about this movie, and everything else was just, it was boring and empty, and the world felt dead, and I don't really care if I ever see Mando and Grogu again now, because I'm like, that was nothing, and they're just these like echoes of what they were.
Well, and honestly, with Mando and Grogu, like, I liked them as characters, but it kind of just feels like now, the way that they've been doing their story and everything, unless they put something out with them that has like something big happen, like a big plot point happens with Grogu, or like, you know, something big happens with Mando and like changes something in their story, there's just like they're kind of just fizzling out. Like, there's nothing else that you can do with them. Like, I honestly, just show us a new bounty hunter adventure every now and then? Like, until something big happens, they're kind of just worthless now. Like, they're not doing anything.
I think the only other places that they should go with them is, I honestly am like, okay, there's the whole stuff with Ahsoka, and this will lead us towards some more general Star Wars stuff here, but there's the whole thing that'll come to an end with Ahsoka, whether it's in a movie or just finishing out in a TV show with like Thrawn and all that, and the Empire, and like leading up to the First Order and whatnot. There's Mandalore is now reunited with Mandalorians, and it's like, in the lore, I don't think anybody necessarily knows what happens next with that because so much stuff has been retconned and whatnot. And then there's Grogu, obviously, is only like 55 or something by this point. Like, he's got a long, long life ahead, and he chose not to be a Jedi. So it's like, the obvious next route for him to go would be the next ruler of Mandalore, the past guy who made the Darksaber and stuff. And it's like, other than those avenues of exploration, it's like, I don't need another bounty hunter adventure. I don't need to see Mando cameo and stuff or be this like ultimate New Republic hero. It's like, that just reduces everything about what you're building off of. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. And one last little bit about Mandalorian and Grogu. I feel like my biggest issue that I felt with that is if that was something that they put out as a Disney Plus special, and if you have a subscription, you can watch it at your house for free, I wouldn't have nearly as many complaints because that's what it felt like. It felt like a Disney Plus special.
It did.
But the way that they marketed it and pushed it out to sell tickets in theaters and toys and all that stuff, I'm like, that was not worth what, that was not worth the price of entry. It's just not.
It got beat by two movies that have a combined budget of like a fraction of what that movie had.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is embarrassing for Star Wars. Like, I put that movie, I saw some people putting it like 7th, 8th ranking in like their Star Wars movies, and others, I think 12 live action Star Wars movies. I have it dead last right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you found more enjoyable stuff in it than that, that's great. But I cannot personally get over how low of expectations I went in with and how still undershot it was. I was so bored. I was just like, okay, when is this going to end?
Yeah.
Gosh, that was so disappointing to me. And this was also, I had just come after, I know, I don't think you've watched this, but I had just come off of watching Maul Shadow Lord. I finished that a week or two before we went and saw Mando and Grogu. And that also was a very small scale story in terms of its impact on things, but in terms of the characters being interesting, the story being like compelling, and like it feeling like Star Wars, it completely outmatched a however $100 million budget movie based off of other famous characters. And Maul, in my opinion, has been milked to death, and they still found something interesting to do with him. That is incredible to me how lowball the Mandalorian and Grogu was.
Well, it kind of sucks too, just because with all of the Star Wars projects that have been coming out and stuff, it just feels like the only thing they ever really get right with the new projects are returning characters or animated stuff. Brand new stories and brand new characters that are live action, for whatever reason, they just can't get it right. I don't know what it is. They just can't, like...
Yeah. And that's one thing that I feel like, specifically with Vader, I feel like ever since they've been doing new projects, they use Vader a lot. Like games, shows, like when Rogue One and the first stream of Disney movies were coming out, whenever Vader shows up, they do a good job of making him seem just terrifying and like unstoppable. And it's like, that's what Vader should feel like. But at a certain point, it's like, you can't always just rely on the heaviest hitter you can drum up. You kind of have to make these other characters just as interesting and put like just as much thought and like care and passion into it. And that's the thing with Maul, is like, you watch Maul Shadow Lord, and this is already a milked to death character, and they found a way to tell another interesting story to me, and I felt like I watched it and was like, you can tell somebody put a lot of thought into how good the animation looks and taking your time to tell like this small scale story but make it interesting with interesting characters. And instead it's like, Well, on the other hand, though, you have this big budget movie where it feels like somebody was like, oh, we should make a movie about them, and then a week or two before the deadline for a script, somebody was like, oh god, we haven't even started writing a script yet.
Yeah.
So that's just, it makes me nervous for any future movie release. And although the gap wasn't as big between, like, you know, there was the prequels and then years went by and then the sequels came out, so that's why Force Awakens and Rogue One, like, were big off the bat hits immediately. Like, everybody's like, oh yeah, Star Wars is back. And then I think 6 or 7 years after The Rise of Skywalker, we come back to Star Wars with this half-baked money grab, completely empty Star Wars movie, and then you're expecting people to get excited for the next 2 or 3 years when more Star Wars movies will come out. Like, Starfighter's next, and I'm worried about that now.
Yeah.
It's like, is it gonna just be more bull crap?
Well, I think it's just kind of ridiculous at this point, too, that one of the big issues that a lot of people have with the current Star Wars stuff is it just seems empty, for one. Like, it doesn't feel like the old Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not, you know, like you said, like the crime syndicates and stuff, they're not all scummy and grimy and stuff like old Star Wars. And, like, the storylines themselves are not as, like, mystical and whimsical as the old Star Wars stuff was and all that. Like, it doesn't feel like Star Wars, which I know a lot of that comes from, you know, how it was with, like, the Skywalker saga and stuff like that, being more into the Jedi and Sith stuff and all that. And that's fine, you know, because, like, there's other stuff that's cool, you know what I mean? Like, the Empire and the Republic and all that, aside from, you know, the Sith and the Jedi, is cool. Yeah. Like, you know, Andor's a pretty good example of, like, okay, like, you kind of done that kind of stuff, you know, well.
Yeah.
But when you just keep throwing half-cocked stories at us with, you know, familiar characters, it's like, well, this is just slop. It's money grab slop. I don't want to see it.
It just doesn't feel like it ever crossed anybody's mind to be like, it feels like whoever is making some of this stuff is thinking to themselves like, well, this isn't going to be the best Star Wars thing, so I shouldn't even try to make it the best thing. It's like, this movie could have been, or The Mandalorian and Grogu could have been amazing if somebody was like, I'm actually going to try and make this the best Star Wars movie. Will it be the best Star Wars movie? Probably not, but you should gun for that. Yeah, you should always try for that, because imagine the place Star Wars would be in if every movie and every show came out and you can tell, like, you could walk away from it being like, you know what, I didn't love it, but I can tell somebody really thought about that and really tried with that. And this just was like, oh, Mando's our new hero, and he's here for the New Republic. Here's a fancy new ship, a halfway familiar face, and this scummy bad guy who we can just say is an Imperial, so you're like, oh, I hate him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so annoying.
Yeah, oh, and also, the amount of stuff in the new Star Wars projects that are, like, just not canonically possible or not lore accurate, stuff like that, I'm like, your audience is a fan base that is, you know, 50-something years old of, like, diehard, dedicated fans, like, super into it, whether it be, like, what's canon, lore heavy, like, whatever.
Yeah.
There are people, someone's going to be paying attention to this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no, it's up to interpretation. Like, because, like, with, like, comic books and stuff, like the Marvel stuff, like, there's some stuff you can get away with just because there's so much, like, so many different comics and so much this and that. Like, it could be a different interpretation of this, or it could be, you know, an original thought about this, or whatever.
Yeah.
But with the Star Wars stuff, it's mostly set in stone, especially because the sample size is so small in the movies and shows and stuff. Like, there's not really a lot of, like, well, maybe it could be based off this or that. Like, it's the books, the comics, the few amount of movies and shows we have, and the lore. Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
and everyone is always paying attention to it, especially when it comes to like new storylines or like continuing storylines for like old characters and stuff. Like everyone is paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go and hire someone to direct some of these shows or movies or whatever, who are not familiar with Star Wars in the way that most of the fans are, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's like the moment that you mess something up, everyone's gonna be like, "Well, it's terrible."
Yeah,
and we've seen it multiple times in the new Disney Star Wars.
Yep, and here's something that I'm worried about, like looking towards the future. There's been some like rumors about what the plot of Starfighter is going to be, and it's already, and obviously it's way early, so I might eat these words, but like. There's rumors going around about Star Wars Starfighter that the plot is going to be, there's this kid who's force sensitive and he's in trouble because there's a warlord after him. And this warlord hired somebody with Sith ties to track this kid down. So this kid finds this like lonesome soldier protector to like get him to safety. And I'm like, this sounds exactly like the Mandalorian, just change the species a little bit, like, it's instead of Baby Yoda, it's just this other guy. And find this other gruff war hero.
Yeah.
And they get him to safety. And instead it's like, that doesn't sound like what you expect when you hear something called Star Wars Starfighter. You expect like, a pilot and like flying around like crazy and doing cool stuff. Now it just sounds like well, at the end of the line, we need to find a story that kind of fits where we're at. It can't be a Sith, but it can be somebody with Sith ties. Just some nameless warlord we'll come up with. And then this war hero.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's already so cliche to Star Wars. Like, is that really the best we can come up with? And you name something an original title like Starfighter. It's not part of a trilogy or anything, and that's what you came up with.
Yeah.
And again, of course, this could all be bullcrap. Probably some of it is bullcrap, but if that's just what's passing, Star Wars is supposed to be at this point like cut and dry. The Skywalker story can keep going if it's like they're gonna go episode 10 through 12, which probably will happen at some point. They can continue with the Skywalker stuff through that. But also, they got to a point where it seemed like they were comfortable to start doing more original stories. And that seems like a very clear path towards, this Force-sensitive kid's in trouble. Who do we find in the new era? Rey.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it happened with Grogu, right? They had to find a safe space to give him away to somebody who can understand him, and that was Luke Skywalker. So it is really just copy and paste. And when does that cycle end? It either ends when Star Wars literally runs out of money and writers, or if they finally get their act together and it's like, let's tell these smaller scale, well thought out stories, or something completely original, but that is faithful to this world.
Yeah. Well, and with that too, like one of their big focuses when they first started doing the new Star Wars stuff with Disney is that they said they wanted to focus on more original stories and stuff like that. Like after, the sequel movies came out, they were like, yeah, we're going to focus on more original stuff and like, stories from old Star Wars that you might not have heard, as well as new characters and new stuff that hasn't happened yet in the like canonical Star Wars world, which is a cool like idea. Like I said, Star Wars is very vast. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of different stuff going on at the same time that's not just, the Skywalker saga. But that pretty much has just turned out to be, how can we create all these new characters and then just tell the same stories over and over again?
Yeah.
Like, let's just do the most cliche Star Wars story, but just have people that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
In a place that you've never been.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, you're never going to make anybody or everybody happy, but I really am at a point where it's like, I'm ready to see them take a big stride and a big chance on something crazy. Yeah. Not just we're not sure if we're ready to take a big chance, so we're going to kind of go a new direction, but are easy to retrace our steps. I want it to be like a if you're gonna swing and miss, like take a big swing.
Yeah.
You know,
like if it don't land, don't because I feel like tiptoeing around is what gets you stuff like Mandalorian and Grogu. It wasn't good, but it also didn't try anything good. Like, that's why it wasn't good.
Mandalorian and Grogu, the best way I can describe it is like a chicken breast that's been in the back of a freezer for like 5 years, and you're like, I wonder if it's still good, so I'm going to thaw it and cook it, and then it turned out that it was rotten.
Yeah.
That's the best way I'd describe Mandalorian and Grogu in just regards to the bigger Star Wars. It was like dipping their toes back in with a half-baked idea instead of taking a big leap and landing in something crazy that might have actually gotten people to be like, whoa, they just did something crazy. So that's just frustrating. And I say that even going into that movie knowing it wasn't going to be crazy, world-changing stuff. But for what I even was expecting, it was so boring and underwhelming.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that's just kind of our rant about the state of Star Wars right now. I don't really have any more points to make about that. You? All right, yeah. Well, hopefully that changes sooner rather than later, because Star Wars at its best is great. But this has been the Maul Opinion. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.